All right, so today we are going over the MLB for Thursday, July the 24th. And as you can see, the odds are on the screen. We're going to start with the Baltimore Orioles versus the Cleveland Guardians. And Baltimore's an even 100, plus 100, minus 118, which is normally the odds, especially in baseball. When you have a plus 100, the other team is a minus 118. And let's go to the spread, minus 1.5. So they have on the run line, they have the Orioles as a favorite at minus 1.5, plus 162 cost, plus 1.5 underdog on the run line for the Guardians, even though they're a favorite on the money line at minus 196. And I'm going to tell you why they do that in a moment. Over unders at 9, minus 110 even across the board here. But notice how Cleveland is an underdog on the money line at minus 118. And a favorite that is at minus 118 on the money line, and an underdog on the run line, which really doesn't make sense, but it does. It's because of the way the odds started. Now, Baltimore opened when the odds came earlier yesterday. Baltimore opened as a favorite, so that's the main reason. The second reason is the predetermined outcome of this game. Cleveland has hella value in this game for the sports books. Like I said, when you're betting, you have to think like a bookie. You have to think like a people operating the sports books. But let's go over where the odds and the money is going real quick. 37% of the betting going with Baltimore on the Orioles on the money line. 43% of the money going with Baltimore. 63% of the betting going with Cleveland. 57% of the money going with Cleveland. Spread looks like this. 29% of the betting going with Baltimore, 77% of the money going with Baltimore because they're looking to cash this out. This plus 162 right here. A lot of money to be had there. Even if you just bet that one pick, that's a lot of money to be made. But that's a trap. It's more than likely a trap game. 23% of the money going with Cleveland, 71% of the betting going with Cleveland on the run line. Over under looks like this. 9 is the total runs, minus 110 even cost. 58% of the betting going with the over, 62% of the money going with the over, 42% of the betting going with the under, 38% of the money going with the under. Now let's see where this is going as far as where the odds are going. Cleveland has a lot of value on the money line and on the run line. Now, when the sharps go in, they're already getting 71% of the betting slips so far. And more than likely, a lot of those are not going to change. A large percent of that is not going to change, probably over 90%. People rarely change their pick after they put in their pick. Now, when the sharps go in, they're going to put more money on Cleveland if they parlay it. But they're going to have to parlay this minus 196. That is a steep run line. Cleveland looks decent across the board there. Now, the over is getting 62% of the money. I would challenge that 9. That 9 is relatively high for baseball as far as betting wise. I would challenge that over and join the public and go with that over in this one. Now, Toronto Blue Jays versus the Detroit Tigers, plus 110 for the Toronto Blue Jays, minus 130 for the Detroit Tigers. Plus 1.5 run line at minus 192 cost for the Blue Jays, minus 1.5 at plus 158 cost for the Tigers. Over unders at 8.5, minus 122 for the over cost. Under 8.5 is getting plus 100 even, but let's see where the money is going. We're going to focus on the higher negatives because you have to think like a bookie once again. Minus 130 money line for the Tigers and the minus 192 for the Blue Jays. Let's see where the money is going. 57% of the betting in favor of Toronto. 81% of the money in favor of Toronto. 43% of the betting in favor of the Tigers. 19% of the money in favor of the Tigers. 54% of the betting in favor of the Blue Jays on the run line. 48% of the money in favor of the Blue Jays on the run line. 46% of the betting in favor of the Detroit Tigers on the run line. 52% betting on the Detroit Tigers on the money on the run line. Over under looks like this. It was at 9, now it's at 8.5. Minus 122, we're going to focus on that one, going over. Plus 100 even, going under. 60% of the betting going over, 54% of the money going over. 46% of the money going under, 40% of the betting going under. And even with that one, that went from 9 to 8.5, usually to probably entice you to go over. I would challenge that over only if these percentages go up. If you see this 60 go over above that, and there's 54% of the money going above 54%, I would go with the over in that instance. As it currently stands, I'm going with the under though. I'm going with the under only because they adjusted it lower to entice you to go over. So I would challenge that only as it currently stands and go with the under. But let's go to the Tigers. This minus 192 is getting 48% of the money. That's it's about 50-50, but that minus 192 is going to make its money. So Toronto looks decent on the run line, especially since they're getting that much money. Now when the sharps go in, they're probably going to bet heavier on the Tigers on the run line. That's still a good pick to go with the Blue Jays on the run line. But on the money line, the plus 110s hit more than the minus 130s. Whenever you see these, now of course those odds can change, but whenever you see that, the plus 110s win more often. So I would go with that plus 110 in that instance and challenge that minus 130. And that only 19% are betting no. Ugh. Sharps are going to go in. They're going to bet heavier on Detroit across the board, which is why I would go with Toronto in that one. All right, San Diego Padres versus St. Louis Cardinals, plus 116. Yes, plus 116 for the Padres. Cardinals are getting minus 134 on the money line. Run line looks like this, plus 1.5 at minus 182 costs. Minus 1.5 at plus 150 costs for the Cardinals. There's a glare on my screen, so pardon the delay. Over under is at 8.5, plus 100 going over, minus 122 going under. The flip of the last game, but let's see where the money is going in this one. We scroll down. Here we go. All right, 48% of the betting in favor of the Padres on the money line on the betting. 52% in favor of St. Louis. 59% of the money in favor of the Padres on the money line. 41% in favor of St. Louis. All right. Spread, run line, 38% going with the Padres on the betting. 62% going with the Cardinals on the betting. 37% of the money going with the Padres on the run line. 63% going with the Cardinals on the money on the run line. Over under looks like this. Over under's at, as you can see, it went from 8 to 8.5. Even FanDuel had it. This was a few hours ago though. They had it at 8. 56% of the betting going over. 44% going under. 54% of the money going over. 46% going under. Let's see where the odds stand for this. So 63% here, 59% here. All right, Cardinals are a favorite in this one. That minus 182 is hard to ignore though. They're above that minus 150 threshold. St. Louis is not above that minus 150 threshold. Over, under, that under is getting minus 122. And I would challenge that, since it's getting such high money in this one, and it went from 8 to 8.5. I don't think that's going to affect bettors that much, especially when it's below 9. It's not going to affect bettors to entice them to go over unless they go to 9. They went from 8 to 8.5, which is why I would stick to the under only as it currently stands. If they go to 9, then go with the over. But 63% of the money going with the Cardinals. 59% of the money going with the Padres on the San Diego's run line is getting 37% at this minus 182 here. I would go with St. Louis on the ML and the Padres on the run line for sure. only because they have increased beyond this. It was at -1, +110, -130 like the last game here. But the odds have increased in both respective directions. So I would go with the Cardinals only because it did that. If you see it go back down to +110, -130, go with St. Louis in that. Or go with the Padres in that one on the ML. But as it currently stands, consider St. Louis and consider the Padres on the run line. Scroll back up. Scroll down. There we go. All right. The Athletics versus Houston Astros. +106 for the Athletics, -124 for the Astros. That -200, the highest of the day. The run line for the Athletics, -1.5 at +164 for the Astros. Over-unders at 8.5 once again. +100 going over, -122 going under. And as you saw earlier, these were the odds that adjusted. This one and the Padres when I first opened this pay. Well, when I first started the video. But -200, we're going to focus on that. The run line for the Athletics. And -124. Let's see. 92% in favor of Houston. Now the sharps go in. They're going to bet heavier on the Athletics. Be careful of that. They're probably going to go down to about 68. It's going to be pretty drastic, but it's going to go down to about 74, 72, 68, 74 and 70, 68 and 75% ish by the time the game starts. And the run line for the Astros is at 77% of the money. They will not pay this out, so I would go with the Athletics on the run line more than likely. But watch how those odds adjust. Watch how that -200 adjusts. If it goes lower, I wouldn't trust it. Like when I say lower, I mean like -170, -160. Now they still could get it, but it has to go down to -170 with this 23% of the money in favor of them. That's going to have to increase. If it goes down, that number is going to have to increase 23% of the money. But as it currently stands, see this -124. Watch how these adjust. Because it looks like it's headed toward that +110, -130. But I'm trusting this -124 in this one, but not a huge lot of confidence in Houston winning this game. Over-under is at 8.5. 8.5 at the under is getting -122. And as far as that, by the way, with this, when you see these +100s, that's 100% of the money going to the bookies, unless you parlay it. But I would go with the under and join normally I would go with the under in this instance, but it's only getting 24% of the betting, 21% of the money, and I don't think that's going to change very much when the odds, by the time the game kicks off, when the sharps go in. But I would join the public and go with the over in that one. All right, Seattle Mariners versus the LA Angels, +102 for the Mariners, -120 for the Angels, +1.5 at -196 for the Seattle Mariners, -1.5 at +162, a lot like the last game, pretty much. For the Angels on the run line, over under looks like this, 9 at -110 even. But let's see where these odds are going. Now this is similar, slightly above a pick'em game, -120, +102. Not a huge difference there in the odds on the money line, but there's a huge difference on the run line, which is where you make your money. When you can make your money, especially in baseball. 56% of the money going in favor of Seattle. 55% of the betting going in favor of Seattle on the money line. 43% in favor of Seattle on the run line. 83% in favor of Seattle, the Mariners, on the run line. Over under looks like this. 61% of the betting going over. 60% of the money going over. 39% of the betting going over. 40% of the money going over. All right, let's see where the money is going in this one. 56% going here. All right, let's see. 56% in favor of the Mariners on this +102. All right, minus 120 going with the Angels. All right, minus 196 is what we're going to focus on. How are they going to adjust this? This is 83% in favor of this minus 196. 83% of the money is in favor of that. That is a very, very, very confident pick there. That's a lot of money going into the bookies' pockets with this minus 196. That is a high cost for baseball. And it's definitely above that minus 150 threshold. Minus 120. In favor of this 44% LA Angels on the money line, 56% in favor of the Mariners. Let's see. Minus 120 plus 102. And they're getting, okay, 55, 56. So it's about the same money to betting to money. Now, the only way I wouldn't pick Seattle in this game, the only way I wouldn't pick Seattle in this game is if LA Angels increase at all. If you see the Angels increase at all, because what's going to happen when the Sharps go in, they're going to put more money on the Angels in this one, and they're at home. But they're not a significant favorite, so you don't have to risk as much loss. That's the only way I would pick the Angels in that one. Otherwise, I would pick Seattle. And that over-under, 60-61 going over, I would join the public and go with that over 9 and challenge that high total. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Pray every day. I've been Scott. Join the Patreon. Link is in the description. And NFL kicks off in a week. Can you believe it? NFL kicks off in a week for preseason Hall of Fame game. But we definitely going to continue baseball, and we might dabble into MLB, WNBA, that is, WNBA as well. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. You guys take care. Pray every day. I've been Scott, and take it easy.